And I'm ready when y'all are. I think we're just going to fire away.
Everybody good camera-wise?
Good to get home.
Yeah.
Sir? You too?
No, you can go.
I guess I think my team sent some questions. I'll start with those topics.
Sure.
That were sent yesterday. The Beatties Ford Road gas station homicide, I believe it happened Sunday. It's now turned into a double homicide, if memory serves me right. Is there any connection? We were hearing from neighbors and others, any connection to the East Eaglewood, I think it was Eaglewood Avenue or Road homicide, people thinking it could be retaliatory?
Okay, so Beatties Ford Road happened last Tuesday, the 24th. And that was two people were deceased from that incident, and then one additional sustained non-life-threatening injuries. The Eaglewood Avenue was Tuesday, October 31st, so they were a week apart, and there was one male victim deceased from that one. These are active investigations; they're ongoing. We can't talk about specific details related to these incidents, but we do certainly continue to ask the public for their help if anybody has information. Of course, Crime Stoppers, as most people know, is a great option. That's 704-334-1600. And then we also have our homicide tip line. That's 704-432-TIPS, TIPS. And somebody can speak directly to a homicide detective if they call that number.
The other thing we've been keeping track of course, is the rash of businesses being broken into in both Noda and Plaza. Specifically, this past Halloween morning, Sip City was broken into. Is there an update in that specific case, an arrest made? And then what is the police department trying to do? Is this a priority? What are they doing to try to prevent these things?
Yeah, sure. So Sip City business was broken into this past weekend. I believe it was Sunday. I'm sorry, it was the 31st. Early morning hours of the 31st. And I am happy to report that 2 juveniles have been arrested in connection with that case. Both are males. One's 15-year-old and one is 17 years old. Those arrests were made very recently within the last day, last 24 hours. No additional suspects are being sought in that case. The Eastway Division is investigating a larger string of B&E's, commercial B&E's business break-ins that have happened largely in the overnight hours, early morning hours. So detectives do continue to investigate those cases at this point.
The reason I asked this follow-up is because a lot of them seem to be similar. Rock thrown into the front glass door. Is there any reason to believe that the 2 that you arrested in the last 24 hours could be connected to any of the others, or is there any connection among them in general? Sure.
At this point, the 2 juveniles that we have arrested, we haven't been able to make any concrete links to the other cases. That's something that we are still looking into. There's a lot of moving parts here. There's several incidents that we're talking about. So putting all the pieces together, getting our detectives to talk to everyone involved. That's something that we're still looking into, whether those 2 are related to the larger string. But at this time, we just haven't been able to connect them concretely.
I know there was good surveillance images and video from that Sip City. What led police to these 2 teams? How did that come about?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into the specifics of how we got to that point to make those arrests, but we are happy that we were able to make those arrests, make those connections. And something that we've continued to do is work with the businesses in the area. Our community coordinators in the Eastway Division have been going business to business to make folks aware that this trend is happening, to let them know that it's concerning to us and that we're working on it. We want to be able to make contact with folks in these businesses to hopefully harden those businesses as a target or as a potential target. We want to kind of take away that every opportunity that we possibly can. And we've also stepped up patrols overnight in those overnight hours and in those areas to try to crack down on this.
Can you at least say if there was a tip from the public that was called in?
I can't.
Okay.
Any information
information on those the cat stabbing, and then was there an altercation involving a CATS bus driver or something this week that you can share about?
Sure. So we put out the stabbing on the CATS bus a couple days ago. That was on the 1st. It was in the afternoon hours of the 1st. Officers responded. That was in the 200 block of East Sugar Creek Road in reference to a person stabbed on the bus. Officers arrived. They located the victim. They applied medical aid, life-saving medical aid there in the form of a tourniquet and a chest seal, and were able to get the victim to the hospital. There were life-threatening injuries in that case. A witness stated that the suspect ran from the bus. We, the department and Crime Stoppers, pushed out an image of that suspect yesterday. We encourage everyone to take a look at that, and if they recognize the person in that photo, please contact us. Please let us know. Crime Stoppers is a great avenue to do that. Again, 704-334-1600. We're always going to plug Crime Stoppers. We appreciate the work that the public puts in to public safety. You know, this police department can't stand alone. If there's any police department out there that thinks that they can do it without the community's help, they're wrong. They're mistaken. And if there's a community who thinks that the police department can do it all by ourselves, unfortunately, they're wrong too. This takes a joint effort. This takes collaboration between us and the police and the community. That's a relationship that we enjoy and that we know that we need. So, Crime Stoppers is a big part of that. So, no real update other than the image that we pushed out yesterday of the suspect that we're asking for help in identifying.
And then an altercation involving a bus driver this week? Was there anything?
Yeah, I believe there was one late last week, maybe on the 31st, where a driver was assaulted. I don't have many other details other than that right there.
Last question. How are you guys working with CATS? I know they say like they have some, they've stepped up security and so forth, and CMPD, they're working with CMPD to like make public transportation safer and so forth. Talk to me about some of those efforts. Sure.
CATS is a City of Charlotte partner of ours. They handle transportation. We generally handle public safety, but those intersect. Those two topics collide. So we do work with them. There have been some recent incidents on CATS property or on CATS buses or trains. I understand that that's alarming to folks. In a city this size, in a major city, unfortunately, there are going to be incidents that happen, but we do encourage our residents and the folks that visit Charlotte to continue to use CATS transportation. I know many people rely on that. We don't want people to be afraid or to be scared to go on a CATS bus. So what I would like to concentrate on is some tips for how people can remain safe while they're on these transportations. So first and foremost, I think it's important to always know where you are, whether you're on a bus or not. Okay, part of that I think is paying attention to the bus number. The bus that I'm getting ready to get on, what's the bus number? What route am I on? If there's an altercation or situation that occurs on that bus and I need to call 911, I want to be able to tell them where I am, maybe the bus number that I'm on. I think that's important. We always talk about being aware of your surroundings. That includes being aware of the people that are on the bus too. What kind of activity are people engaging in? Are they encroaching on maybe what you feel is your personal space? And if that's the case, let's try to disengage. I know there's limited room on a bus or on a light rail train, but let's try to disengage and de-escalate as much as possible. There's a lot of ways that we can do that. We can use our words to disengage or de-escalate a situation, bring the temperature of a situation down, and that's something that's important. And also trying to create distance is important too. I know that CATS has a safety app for a phone. Certainly, I'm sure they could provide more information there, but I think that is in addition to someone calling 911, that is another mechanism to be able to reach somebody in the CATS transit police or transit security immediately.
I know they have security on some of the buses, and that's their own safety system, but have they approached CMPD in regards to asking for any help, whether it's staffing buses with an officer or transit trains with an officer at all, or is that their own safety procedures?
So they certainly run much of their own safety. They contract with security and police agencies to do that. CMPD does work with CATS. We have CMPD officers embedded with the CATS system to act as liaisons and to provide a little additional security. So that's something that is ongoing, has been in place for quite some time, and is still ongoing. Yeah. Yes. Hey.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thanks for having this conference. I wanted to talk about the metro area, the metro division, especially the community along Kentucky Avenue up through the 85 corridor and Betty's Ford. We have a lot of uptick in stolen vehicles that are wrecking inside that community. Several of them. One of the cars was from Georgia, according to the police report. A lot of times it's teens jumping out of the cars. The police is finding weapons, drugs, things like that. And in particular along Kentucky, the Stewart Stream Apartments, they were just notified from their landlord that they're taking the front screen doors off their homes, and they feel like they're losing an extra level of security. I know it seems as if when something happens, then we see like the bike patrol and everybody, you guys are very quick to respond. But what else can the community itself, because you've got a lot of seniors and disabled, do out there? It seems like a lot of these stolen vehicles are coming off of 16 and 85 into that community. And then when it's juveniles, unfortunately, a lot of times you can't get the information, who it is, and also assault with weapons has increased over the past several years out there in Kentucky. So the community is very worried at this point with this uptick, and a lot of them are seniors. And what can they?
Yeah, so I know that the Metro Division Command and those officers are engaged out there. You mentioned the bike patrol and the officers responding quickly. The bike patrol out there is something that the Metro Division has used for quite some time to show extra presence in the community and be hyper mobile, to be able to respond to incidents, and not only respond to incidents but be able to meet people proactively also. When you talk about stolen vehicles, that's something that's a battle that we're facing. Certainly, we talked about that. We have talked about that for the last year and a half almost, especially with the Kias and Hyundais. And some people might be sick of hearing about Kias and Hyundais. I'm almost sick of talking about it. But we're tired for sure.
Fences are getting knocked down. There are trees.
For sure, and these stolen vehicles, these vehicles that are being stolen at higher rates than we've ever seen before, are a car being stolen is not the end of the potential criminal conduct. It's not the end. It's usually the beginning. And unfortunately, we do see some folks that just joyride, some kids that joyride in these vehicles, but we also do see them used in the furtherance of criminal activity. And so that's something
which really surprised everybody.
That's something that's important. It's something that we continue to work on, that entire property crime trend, especially with stolen vehicles, and finding the people that are stealing the vehicles, but also finding the people that are in possession of these vehicles and using them in the furtherance of crime.
I have a question about something that we have seen numerous times, including this week. Shots into cars on interstates and on roads, whether they're road rage or not. How do police go about trying? It sounds like a very difficult thing to solve. What is the process? What goes on into solving a crime like that and the difficulties in solving it? Because we are hearing from some of these victims who don't think that their case has been taken necessarily seriously in trying to be solved.
Okay, so we talk about violent crime being down in the city of Charlotte, and that's the case. But we understand with that is violent crime does still occur. This is a major city. It's not an excuse to get away from it. We're not spiking the football and saying we're happy that violent crime is down. That's the end of the story. But these incidents do continue to occur. So when we talk about solving these cases, we look at these cases individually, but we also look at them holistically. We have an entire crime analysis unit that tries to connect dots between incidents. And really, a lot of times the question is, are these related or are they isolated incidents? If they're related, we have people in place, the crime gun suppression team, which we talk about a lot. They investigate retaliatory shootings or maybe series shootings. So when we identify cases that are related to one another, they're going to step in a heavy way in conjunction with crime analysis to be able to map these things, to be able to identify key players in these things, work with our division detectives to paint a picture and be able to connect some of these things. We have technologies such as NIBIN, which we've talked about often, to connect individual shooting cases together to create a more holistic picture. But then even on the isolated level, there might be, if we have a victim in the city of Charlotte whose car is shot into, and that's not related to any other crime, that crime is still important. And that victim is still important. And I assure you that our detectives investigate each and every shooting incident in this city. And it's something that we do pay attention to and put resources together on. We have folks in the department that look, again, at these situations across the board, at these shootings across the board. No one should feel that that they are in danger of their car being shot into while they're driving down the road. That's absolutely unacceptable to us. So these investigations run much like many other types of investigations with physical evidence and witnesses and surveillance. There's business cameras and cameras all around that we do that we depend on to get factual information about the case, so we can kind of put all the pieces together. But all these incidents are important to us.
I would like to ask you about street takeovers. Last weekend was pretty active. What can you tell us?
So we continue to see some street takeover activity in the city. Happy to say that the activity is reduced. We talk about it all the time. The activity at the height was hundreds of vehicles. And we've seen that activity drop to not only in the number of vehicles, but also the number of incidents or number of events that we're responding to. So we're happy about that. But it does continue. We still continue to see it on sporadic cases or isolated cases. This activity is dangerous, and is not acceptable. And I hope that's the message that has been conveyed from this police department to the community and to those who are actively engaging in these activities. This is not acceptable. It's not acceptable in the city of Charlotte, and it won't be. I think that the emphasis that we have put on it as a police department has led to the decrease. I think people are leaving, if they're still engaging in this activity, most people are leaving the city of Charlotte to do so, because they know that if you come to the city of Charlotte and you engage in this type of activity, we will arrest you, we will cite you, we will seize your vehicle. And I think that's why we've made some progress. We are looking forward to December 1st, 2023, less than 1 month from now, when the new legislation that was unanimously passed, it was unanimously passed in the North Carolina Congress, goes into effect. That legislation specifically criminalizes street takeovers. That's not something that has been done in the past. We rely on other traffic laws, reckless driving, for example, to charge and prosecute these cases that we've been working on. But this new legislation puts into effect the actual criminal charge of street takeover. It defines what that is, and then it outlines the punishment or the repercussion, the accountability piece for what that is. And those are increased measures. It gives us specific authority to seize vehicles for people that are engaging in this type of activity. And it also gives the ability to charge people who organize these events or participate, even if they're not driving a vehicle, if they participate in the event of a street takeover, shutting down roads, standing by and watching, things of that nature. So that legislation, I think, is going to be hopefully, I like to be optimistic and say maybe a final nail in the coffin. Again, is it going to disappear absolutely and completely? Not likely, but we're hoping that limits the number of people that are going to come into this city to do that activity and give us additional measures to be able to hold people accountable if they do.
Can you just confirm how many citations you issued last weekend?
Last weekend, let me get this. So last weekend was 13 citations, and we towed 11 vehicles for evidence holds.
Where was that location?
The locations for the meetups last weekend: Statesville Avenue, West Airwood Road, Nations Ford Road, West Boulevard, and Wilkinson Boulevard. And again, we do see some locations that pop up repeatedly, and then sometimes it's a completely random location that we've never seen before. So we understand that it can happen anywhere.
2 questions on that. Are you finding that these are being spearheaded by local individuals or a majority of people coming from out of town and putting these on or organizing them? And then second, I know you say that there are some frequent places, but there are also pop-up. Are you guys being more responsive to these things, or are your investigators kind of finding things on social media and kind of preventing them in general as soon as they start?
Yeah, so we have people in strategic locations to be able to identify when these kick off. We also receive 911 calls about these things, which is something that we appreciate. So we have different methods of being able to identify where these things are happening. Remind me of the first question.
Are these being spearheaded by locals or
Gotcha.
outside actors?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of both. But, this past weekend, for example, I think that was really led largely by outside of Charlotte folks coming into Charlotte. And again, I've got bad news for them. It's not going to go well. It's not going to go well.
Is that a federal or still state or local when they're coming from out of state if you apprehend them?
Yeah, it's still the same charges. Currently we use reckless driving. It's going to change on December 1st.
Where are they coming from?
All over the region. All over the region.
When it comes to
Let's go back here. Yeah.
Has CMPD responded to any hate crimes or seen any increase in anti-Jewish threats since the war began?
Yeah, so I'm not aware of any specific credible threats or any incidents that we've had here locally.
And I guess the Department of Justice put some funding out for hate crimes. Is CMPD getting any of that funding to combat hate crimes? I guess
That's something that we'll have to follow up with you on that one. Yeah.
when it comes to road rage, back to that, is there any trends up there? I don't know how much you guys track this, but are you guys seeing any trends that you can discuss?
I don't have information about road rage specifically. I know that overall shooting into occupied property is down 4% this year. Shooting into occupied property will include shooting into an occupied vehicle, but it'll also include any sort of enclosure. So it could be a house, an apartment, anything that's occupied. But that total number of shooting to occupied property is down this year.
This is a follow-up to his question. This may have happened while I was gone, but right after this war started, I saw on social media, I think one of these past weekends, your officers or a lieutenant actually went to one of our main synagogues and met with them and heard their concerns.
Sure.
Have you guys boosted patrols around those areas, and have you received concerns from that community?
Yeah, so we absolutely have boosted patrols at these. Right when this kicked off towards the beginning of October, we designated patrols to be responding and patrolling synagogues, mosques throughout the jurisdiction. Part of that was making personal contact with folks, with representatives from these entities. That's something that's important to us, so that they know that we support them and support their safety, and so that's something that's been very beneficial. Yeah.
Can you speak to the shooting last week at the Shell station that left 2 fatalities and 1, I believe, was injured? Rumor has it was a revenge shooting, that someone originally shot into the other person's grandfather's home. Do you know if any of that is just rumor, or?
Are you talking about the Beatties Ford Road
The
homicide?
2600 Beatties Ford.
Sure. So I spoke to that just earlier.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Okay. Yeah, Beatties Ford Road, there were 2 people that were deceased from that incident, and then 1 additional who sustained non-life-threatening injuries. I can't discuss the specifics of the investigation, those details at this point, but certainly we ask for help from the community through Crime
That's what
Stoppers.
you're saying,
Yeah.
that it was an altercation because of someone had shot into their grandfather's home, and so when they seen the suspects, they
Okay.
ended up to be victims. That's how the shooting occurred, but we were just trying to get more information, if that's accurate.
Yeah, that's not something that I'm able to speak to right now because that's going to be a specific detail for the investigation. Anything else? All right, very good. Appreciate y'all. Yeah.
Appreciate you.